Greece, officially the Hellenic Republic, is a country in southeastern Europe. It has a very complex history, so let me, a 16-year-old who has never left the state of Florida, tell you all about it. Greek civilization started from a small band of rabble-rousers called the Minoans. What do we know about these people? Nothing really. They camped on a big island for most of their existence and were constantly raided by some other guys known as the Mycenaeans. You'll notice the Greeks had a lot of trouble with raids through their history. Then, to make matters worse, the Minoans got nae'd by a volcano, but hey, at least they got a pretty cool tourist destination out of it. After the whole volcano thing, the Mycenaeans became the dominant civilization in Greece, just in time for the Bronze Age collapse. The Mycenaeans proceeded to get wrecked by the Sea People and disappeared, only to be known for their alphabet. In the next 300 to 500 years, a bunch of small city-state civilizations would appear. These are what you would normally attribute to ancient Greece. There were like a bazillion of these things, but there were only a few that are important, and the importantest among them would be Sparta and Athens. Sparta didn't really do much but have a giant slave population and some dope-ass heavy infantry, which is all you really needed in the archaic period. Athens, on the other hand, went total tryhard, going on to invent things such as thinking and math, which is also coincidentally why they're no one's favorite. Oh, and they were also imperialist bastards and colonized all this shit. Eventually, Sparta burnt down Athens and their textbooks, before getting clobbered by Thebes, who in turn got clobbered by Macedon, which was ironically not in modern-day Macedon. Then, a 5-foot dude named Alexander conquered most of the known world. This lasted all 5 seconds before the empire split off into a bunch of separate kingdoms, but we really only care about this one for now. This kingdom also lasted about as long as Alexander's empire, before they started picking fights with Rome, the Mediterranean superpower, and got triumphed on, being annexed into the empire by Imperator Kaiser Divi Filius Augustus. Greece would remain in the hands of the Romans until the fall of the western part of the empire in 1476. Greece became the cultural center of the newly established Eastern Roman Empire, the surviving eastern half of the Roman Empire, or the Byzantine Empire if you're a barbarian piece of shit. Over the period of the next 1,000 years, the empire slowly became less and less relevant, suffering from Arab, Turkish, Bulgarian, Hunnic, Mongolian, Illyrian, Serbian, Persian, and Slavic raids until May 29th, 1453, when the city of the world's desire, Constantinople, was successfully captured by the Ottoman Turks, and the last light of Rome was finally extinguished from this horrible world. Then over the course of 400-ish years, the Greeks would be systematically persecuted under the Ottoman Empire, until the year 1821, when the Greeks spurred a glorious rebellion against their barbarian occupiers. Led by Theodoros Kolochthronis and his goon squad, he faced Sultan Mahmud II and his Turkic barbarian hordes. The war would last all of 8 years and deserves a video of its own, so I'll just say the Greeks won for now and the Ottoman stands have been coping ever since. The terms drawn up weren't bad for the Greeks, but they knew that this was not optimal, and the feelings began to stir, and soon enough there were calls to unite all Greeks in a glorious nation-state, built on expanding their debt, tourist traps, and a bangin' mercantile industry. After some decades of political instability, some German guy became king for a while, imagine that, and after some failed territorial acquisition, the stage was set for a period of new triumph. Cut to 1910, where the Turks were about to get their asses kicked by the Italians 2 years later, and when that would happen, the free nations of the Balkans would make their move. In the period of less than a year, the Balkan Entente would free the people of Albania, Macedonia, Thrace, Serbia, and Bulgaria, all former subjects of the Eastern Roman Empire, I might add. Of course, this great victory would be sufficient to the Balkan countries. No, of course not. You already know that the descendants of such barbarity wouldn't be happy with doubling their size, which is far more than the Bulgars deserved. Speaking of the Bulgars, they then declared war on basically everyone and got subsequently pounded for it. Like really, who makes all these enemies in one war? This obviously failed, and the Greeks, being as merciful as they were, still let the Bulgarians have land in Thrace. And you won't believe what happened next. They fucking tried again, this time in World War I. The barbarians took Greek civilization by surprise, pushing them to the once Byzantine cultural stronghold of Thessalonica, a primary target of Bulgaria in the First Balkan War. After World War I, Greece got the rest of Bulgaria's land in Thrace and saw their consolidation of their new territories. And yet another political disaster, when the monarchy, a long-standing Greek tradition, would be abolished in 1924, and the Second Hellenic Republic would be formed, which lasted for about a decade before it disappeared through a military coup d'etat. After some more political turmoil, which is far too complex to get into, the biggest event of the century would take place, that of course being the Second Great War, or in which the Italian Empire under Benito Mussolini did their best to invade Greece through North Epirus and got subsequently wrecked, eventually calling on Germany for help, where the Germs spammed their tanks to force a breakthrough. The Greek government then fled to Crete, where they were quite literally jumped on in a chaotic operation. Greece would stay occupied for the next 3 years, and after those 3 years, the Greek government was back in power. To show their gratitude, the communists in the country almost immediately started a civil war, the irony being that a military dictatorship would take over the country not long after. It's worth mentioning that Greece had been accumulating such a debt that the government was becoming inoperable, which would eventually prove so in 1974, when the military dictatorship and reinstated monarchy would become uninstated yet again. That leads us to today. The country is still in a mountain of debt, there are cats everywhere for some reason, the EU isn't helping in the slightest, and the Hagia Sophia just got reinstated into a mosque. The future of Greece is not one of marble but one of bricks, an ironic fate for a once great empire. How Constantine would have wept. So anyway, that's the end of the video. Yeah, I was planning to make this on like modern day Greek politics and why like the Greece situation was so trash, but you know, I kind of got carried away with talking about Rome, so I kind of just made it a history video. I might still make that politics video, but I don't know if I have the idea for that anymore. I don't know, we'll see. Alright, thanks for listening, people.